and apply for UC. Oh, you could apply for CSUs. You pretty much any and all are available. Ivy Leagues are available for you. I think private universities, Stanford, Harvard, you could look into those schools as well and see if you could get scholarships in various ways. There definitely is, and there are options available for undocumented youth. I know that when I was in high school, I didn't think so. It all seemed really expensive and like it wasn't available to me. But what I wasn't taking into consideration was the amount of financial aid that I would receive. I didn't understand the financial aid process. And as an undocumented young person or as an undocumented youth, you are eligible for financial aid from California. What does that mean? In the UC system, if you have a high enough GPA above 3.0 and your parent income is under 80,000, you would pretty much be eligible for the Blue and Gold Opportunity Program, which covers your tuition. So that's the $14,000 gets covered, and now you need to, and then if you apply for some scholarships, you could supplement the cost of living. So there are definitely ways to be able to live outside of your with your parents and go away to a university and get enough money to cover the expenses. And then CSUs are also, you can go to a CSU and get the different financial aid options there. Private universities are also options. At a private university, you could even cover, they might cover everything. So they have some scholarships that cover everything. And scholarships. I always tell people, if it took you an hour to write a scholarship and you got $1,000, that's you getting paid $1,000 an hour. And scholarship is a really, really great economic return on your time and investment, especially after you build the muscle of writing scholarships. So I strongly encourage people to do and present scholarships to cover their education.
Great. So whether you're a dreamer or DACA or even a documented student, that GPA could earn you either the Blue and Gold opportunity through the UC or the Cal Grant that could go to any of the California schools if you meet that income criteria and, of course, that 3.0 GPA unweighted for 10th and 11th grade, which gives them a lot of access. And I think also, too, that a lot of dreamers don't realize that a lot of the private schools, there's about 70 of them who do meet full need, right? So Stanford University has advertised like how they have accepted dreamer students and have given them the financial aid packages that they need. But what are some limitations between a dreamer and a DACA student if they're trying to go out of state for colleges, whether it's for financial aid or just because of issues regarding about being undocumented versus being DACA?
Yes. I think one of the things to definitely consider is more than anything, tuition, right? If you're going out of state, you want to know, okay, if I'm going to go out of state, what's the tuition that I'm going to need to pay out of state, and is this campus open to undocumented students? So either have your counselor call or you call to ask those questions of the school and that you are planning to apply for. And then the other thing is traveling. So one thing that you could come across is, can my family visit me? Am I going to come visit my family? What if you're homesick? So what is your plan to travel? Are you going to be taking buses? Are you going to be, flying? And if you're going to be flying, do you have a valid passport? Do you have a valid license to DACA? And then if you don't have a valid license to DACA, just recognizing that, again, AB60 licenses, that California provides licenses through AB60 for undocumented people. Those licenses are not intended for travel. And then just making sure, I think, again, the thing to consider when you're going abroad or when you're going to a different state is the traveling and being able to visit your family or have your family visit you.
Yeah, so I think that's one thing to take into consideration. There's so many great colleges out of state, but I had one student who graduated, but their family was undocumented. They were a U.S. citizen, and they they graduate without their family being there, right? They had an amazing experience and wouldn't change it, but that's something to keep that in mind. And then DACA students, they can go and fly and do fly-in programs and all that other information. But if you're dreamers and you don't have the paperwork, that's going to be a huge hurdle for them, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, you want to make sure you have your passport to be able to travel, and that you're well informed, well prepared if anything happens. Every airport has, or most airports have immigration on site, especially any international airport. And so if I present my passport, the risk is really that the TSA officer could just ask a couple more questions, and then that is the risk. And if they ask certain questions, and I'm there in the airport, it's just a risk. It's a risk for an undocumented person to travel through an airline. And then again, if you have DACA, it's not a problem, because if you have DACA, you're protected,
right,
from deportation, and you have work authorization, and your license is a license given through the state. But if you're an undocumented person, or if you're someone without DACA, there's a risk to travel. I know people who do it, and there's a risk. That's all there is to really know about that. Yeah.
And for those students who are undocumented who don't want to take that risk, it is kind of hard for them to see, oh, look, I have my classmate who's flying around this place, or they're looking at this school. Any words of wisdom for those students that you have for them? Because it's kind of hard to digest and accept that I have these limitations, even though it was out of my control.
Yeah, that is correct. I think, growing up, I did experience when my family would say, oh, we all went to Mexico, and knowing that I couldn't go or that I didn't go, there was an experience of, like what you're saying, limitations, like unfairness, or why did this happen to us? Like, it didn't have to be this way. There was that was present, and my, if any wisdom is, that you're going to grow. So hurdles and facing hurdles in life actually has you be strong, and a lot stronger. And I don't know what your future will be, but I know that story and those experiences of being limited will actually be a driver for your future success. At least it has in my case. Like I just could identify way more with people who didn't have it all, and find an immediate connection that other people who kind of, it's just hard whenever, it's just not the same when someone had everything handed to them. And so the ability to I don't know, sometimes when you're limited, you end up still having options. And so let me say what I mean. I applied to go on advanced parole to Canada, right? And this is totally because I had DACA, and I thought, okay, I could go, and was denied. Like, I couldn't actually go. And in the end, in the moment, it did feel limited. Like, oh, I didn't get to go. They barred me because I'm not a resident of the United States, and they said I couldn't go to Canada, even with DACA. But then I realized, well, what did I want to do in Canada? I was like, oh, I wanted to meet new places, see new things, meet new people. And I was like, well, I'm in Davis. At the time I was in Davis, and I said, if that's what I wanted to do, why don't I do that here? And then I realized there was places in Davis that I hadn't actually visited. There's people I hadn't actually met. And then I went around visiting and meeting people close to me. So I think it's really, what's your purpose? What do you want? And there's sometimes ways to get that, and that they don't look like doing what everybody else is doing all that traveling, doing all those flights, booking all of that. You could still get what you want, and it might not look like what other people are doing. So you got to create it yourself.
Right. I think, that's great words of wisdom for anyone who gets denied. So when one door closes, just, still try and knock on it, see if they'll let you in. And if they bolt the door, turn around, you'll see so many other doors open. You just have to turn around.
There's other doors.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Now, you've mentioned, like from your experience, that financial aid was something that was very different. And I was hoping we could speak a little bit further how financial aid works. Now, if we have listeners from other states, it's going to be definitely different. But if we could focus for today for California. So for Dreamers in DACA, a lot of them think that financial aid is not an option because if they are not a U.S. citizen or have the correct visa, they can't use the FAFSA application, the free application for student aid. But in California, there is the California Dream Act that is available for both Dreamers and DACA students. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So then, would you repeat the beginning of the question?
Sure. Can you talk a little bit about the financial aid options, like what forms and applications can Dreamers and DACA students use and apply for college?
Yes. So the California Dream Act application is the main form. In that, you access the SIC, California Student Aid Commission. That's, go to your counselor. They will be able to assist you. If not, again, you could send me an email. So the California Dream Act application is the form that you're going to fill out by March 2nd. Every year by March 2nd, you're going to fill this out every year that you're going to go to a university or college. And along with the California Dream Act application, once you're around April, May, June, like when you're accepted into the university you're going to go to, you're going to also fill out an affidavit. An affidavit is a form that you fill out that says that at the first opportunity you have to become a resident of the United States or the state, you will take that opportunity. And that form, you can find it on our resources, or the school that you are going to go to could hand it to you, and you would do that filing of that through the registrar's office in the university you're going to go to. And so, again, two very big things. California Dream Act application, that's March 2nd. And then the second one is the affidavit form that you would fill out closer to summer to say that at the first opportunity you have to become a resident, you will do that. And doing that will then allow you to get the financial aid. For young men, you want to register for the selective service. You go to the mail to do that. Go to the mail and just actually submit a registration for the selective service. Undocumented people can register. It's not an issue. It's something that you need to do, or else your financial aid funds don't get reimbursed to you. You won't receive them. So you want to make sure that you fill out the selective service form to register yourself prior to the age of 18, and that it will have you have the money that you get from financial aid. And those are the three main forms. I mean, in the California Dream Act application, you're going to have to report your taxes, your parents' taxes, so making sure that those are up to date. You report the 2 years back, so 2000, this upcoming 2018, 2019, I'm going to be reporting my 2016, 2017 taxes from my parents. So making sure that your parents have that information and that you can present it. And again, that you have yours.
Right. So known as like the prior year. So if they go to dream.csac.ca.gov, they can find the California Dream Act. And now there may be some concerns that some students will have. Oh, wait a minute, I'm doing a government website. They know that I am undocumented. Should I be concerned?
Yeah, all of your information that goes on any of these forms that is, educational based forms are protected through a national policy called FERPA. And so that's FERPA. So there is, very little to worry about in terms of what's going to happen with my information. It's actually only going to be used for educational purposes.
Yeah. And also, like you mentioned, they can reach out to their counselors, and also do know that to check with your counselors, because they're going to be filling out what's called a GPA verification form that they could submit as early as October 1st. You can also do your California Dream Act as early as October 1st, because they're searching private schools that will maybe need your applications for financial aid earlier, especially if you're applying early. In some of those schools, let's say like you're applying to Santa Clara University or Stanford, will need an additional financial aid form called the CSS profile, which you can find on College Board, who